G'day guys, welcome back to the Fortnite competitive update where I'm going to be recapping everything that happened this week and all the changes that are affecting the game. We had our first week of FNCS, including some insane performances from Clix and MrSavage. I'll run through the whole leaderboards. I want to talk about some of the updates that are massively changing the game, like the new brick farming, and I want to talk more generally about the meta because there's a lot of people freaking out about the heal-offs. We had jellyfish augment being vaulted, but it's not enough. Every game is still going to minutes of heal off, but I want to talk about why that is and what might be changing in the future. There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Before we jump into talking about the leaderboards, let's talk about some of those changes. So first off, the brick farming. A lot of people are freaking out about this. If you have somehow not realized, brick around the map is terrible. You smack a big rock 10 times and you get like 20 brick from it. Also, if you try to build anywhere near it, it just completely vanishes. And a lot of people were saying this was a deliberate change. It was not. Fortnite Status has tweeted out saying they are aware of this issue and it's set to be fixed in the next game update. Now, we don't actually have a confirmed date of the next game update. I hope it's going to be this Tuesday because if we have to go through 2 weeks of FNCS like this, it is going to be pretty terrible. If you don't have good metal on your drop spot right now, you pretty much have to spend your whole mid game farming brick and then you still have no hard mats left at the end of it. I don't know how this keeps happening. You'll probably remember that this glitch actually happened last season and it took them weeks to fix. So I hope they know the fix this time around because if this lasts for the entirety of this FNCS, it's going to be really rough. Next up, heal-offs. You've heard enough about it. If you've played any competitive Fortnite, you've watched any competitive Fortnite, you are well aware of the fact that most endgames are going to heal off. The solo victory cups are just absolutely ridiculous right now. If you take a single tick of Storm before you get to that endgame, because of Storm sickness, you're just not winning. They're going to like 10 and 15 man heal-offs. People are even running single or no gun loadouts, just running all meds and katanas. It's getting pretty ridiculous. It's getting pretty goofy. It looked like Fortnite was trying to fix it for a while there. They nerfed the jellyfish augment, just completely removing it from competitive Fortnite so people couldn't build the gigantic jelly base like they were doing, and that didn't really do that much. Because of the pizza perk, because of the splashes, because of everything else in the game, they're still going to heal off every single time, but Epic's not removing pizza, which is one of the main things right now. I think honestly, if they were really going to get rid of the heal offs, you would have to heavily nerf the katana, you'd have to heavily nerf the slurps, you would have to massively reduce the amount of splashes, and you would have to completely remove the pizza perk. That's pretty much the only way to get rid of the heal-offs right now, at least in the solo victory cups. As far as FNCS and duos goes, I was really confused. On EU, which happened on Saturday because EU now plays first on the weekend, there was ridiculous amounts of heal-off. Pretty much every single game, the first game going to like almost a minute-long heal-off. Meanwhile, NA that played out on Sunday, only a couple of the games went to heal-off, and even then it was only like 5 or 10 seconds and the teams were still fighting while trying to pop their meds. It wasn't those just full base heal offs. I did make a tweet pointing out that it looked like, and again I could be completely wrong, that Epic actually nerfed the chance of getting the pizza augment overnight. I didn't hear anything about this. The leakers didn't say anything, so it might just be me noticing it and it's not actually true, but the difference between the EU lobbies and the NA lobbies was massive, and I'm not entirely sure what that is. Maybe EU's just been practicing more, maybe EU is just better, so they understand the meta more, so they're going for the heal-offs where NA isn't. But it was more enjoyable to watch NA without the heal-offs, but I don't know if anything's changed. But it was interesting at the start of the Fortnite official broadcast, they actually did an entire segment breaking down how the new zones are giving people more time to then get their loot, leading to less fighting, and because of the stronger meds, it's now going to heal off. They highlighted this, they talked about it, they didn't at all mention anything about not liking it or any negativity towards it. I don't know if maybe they've just accidentally made this heal off meta or Epic actually wants heal offs. At this point, I'm not really sure. Now, let's talk FNCS. We had some incredible placements, but I'm seeing a lot of you guys still confused around the format. Remember, it's not automatic qualifications anymore. If you get top 5 in these semifinals or these qualifiers, you don't go straight through into the grand finals. You need to be consistent across all 3 weeks. The top 40 teams after the 3 weeks are going to go straight through into grand finals. The 41st through to 90th are going to play in the surge week. So just because these teams did crazy today doesn't mean they're automatically into the grand finals. And honestly, I'm totally okay with that because these teams are putting on an absolute show right now, a lot of them streaming. So on NA, we had Acorn and Cold taking it home with a ridiculously dominant performance, 359 points. When second place was NPen and Polarize on 277, it shows you how big of a deal it was. Look at this placement: 2 Elim third, 6 Elim fourth, 6 Elim first, 2 Elim fourth, 5 Elim fourth, and a 4 Elim fourth. They averaged 3.3 average placement. That is absolutely ridiculous. Now remember, Acorn is Canadian. He has now gotten a massive ping nerf with the central changes, but it is not affecting things at all for Acorn and Cold. They are very clearly still one of, if not the most dominant teams on the NA region. Out of all of the grand final winners, they were the only team to come in first in the week 1 qualifier. So looking really strong. Now second place, NPen and Polarize. Obviously you're used to hearing about Polarize at this point, taking over Twitch and YouTube with his competitive content, playing Arena, dropping 30 bombs, everyone freaking out. But his placements over the last few seasons, or even the last couple years, they've been a bit all over the place. Sometimes decent, sometimes not so much, just still always has those insane mechanics, but doesn't seem to be able to bring it together in competitive. But pair that with NPen and they were looking really sharp today. They did only just get that second place spot over Peterbot and Quanti in 272 points. That is a brand new duo that's now reformed with this kind of mini snake inning we had recently. It's worth pointing out for Peterbot and Quanti, they were contested on south side of Slappy and they only made it off spawn 4 times. They went down twice in 49th and 48th. So they managed to come top 3 with only 4 games, because when they make it off spawn, they got an 8 Elim win, a 7 Elim second, a 7 Elim win, and a 4 Elim ninth. So really consistent, but I don't know if they're going to have that same level of consistency when they're not contested. Yeah, they win the spawn fight, that gets them some surge, that gets their early game set up, but honestly, their consistency is looking really good. Now, we have Clix and Centered in 4th place. Awesome to see Clix on the top there. If you've been watching Clix's streams, you're probably not surprised because him and Centered have been grinding, playing double sessions of scrims pretty much every single day they're on, 1v1ing in between, VOD reviewing, getting a coach. Clix has finally learned how to drop. He's actually got a drop map. He's winning his drops, and it's one of the first times we've seen that they were uncontested. They managed to stay uncontested all 6 games. It was actually their last game that was their worst performance, but their consistency was amazing. A 4th, 5th, 8th, 7th, 5th, and then a 13th. With that last game, if they got another like 5th, they could have actually come 2nd. They played really well. Then we had Trashy and Pump, one of the most consistent duos of last season. They were also contested today, but they only lost the spawn fight twice, and much like Peterbot and Quanti, with the 4 games they made it off spawn, they got a third, and first. So as you can see from the top 5 teams, contested or not, the best teams are finding ridiculous consistency when they make it to those end games. We also had Yomzo and Rise in 6. They won the first duo cash cup of the season on NA. Double high ping nerf for them. They are both Canadian players, so they are feeling that ping nerf a little bit, but still a really strong performance from them. Then we had Cooper and Miro. Miro's retirement, I don't know what's going on anymore. He came back. He's not playing with Booga. He's picked up Cooper, who is a central player who has now gained a massive ping buff. Cooper's one of those players I'm really excited to see how they go now with this 0 ping increase. Miro just can't stay away from the game. I don't know if he just didn't want to play with Booga. I really do think he wanted to step away from the game, but just couldn't. So he's back. He's in 7th. He's still looking crazy. Honestly, could somehow win an FNCS from retirement. We had Nounsy and Voil in 8th, Aviv and Skittles in 9th, being contested at Bastion. And then we had Batman Booga and Bacon in 10th. They are our only NA West duo in the top 10, previously NA West. They were contested on spawn. The team contested them. Unfortunately, didn't have the best time of the tournament. They actually came last, but it's worth pointing out Batman Booga and Bacon actually had the most eliminations of any team in the finals, and we have Batman Booga now playing on 50 ping as the fragger. So I know I'm talking about ping a lot here. Obviously, we've had this NA East, NA West combined, and I think it's cool to point out that a lot of these players who are now on higher ping are still performing really well, to maybe give some of you guys hope who are giving up on the game because your ping got worse. Also, I was only going to do the top 10, but seeing Commandment and Macwood just outside top 10, the OG GOAT's been very quiet, but clearly putting some time into the game because a very strong start to FNCS for them. Now, switching gears over to EU, we have the ex-Asia duo of Swizzy and Smokey taking out first place on 283 points, 6 matches, and winning 3 of them. They won half of the games they played. They were playing pretty hardcore heal-off meta, which is how the games went on EU, like I talked about earlier. So they didn't get too many elims, but winning half their games is ridiculous. This is a Russia duo who moved from the Asia side of Russia to the EU side of Russia. It's a big deal. We've seen a lot of players move around different regions, have interesting performances. We haven't really seen a duo who's come over to EU, the hardest region, and dominate. And that's what Swizzy and Smokey are doing here, putting a stamp on EU, taking home week 1 for Asia. Really, really impressive performance for them. Then we had a big name in second place who we haven't seen at the top of a leaderboard in FNCS in a minute. We have Vidil and MrSavage on 244. Not only this, MrSavage streamed all of these games as well. He's been a bit inconsistent with his tournament streams, but firing up the stream for grand final surprised a lot of people, and they absolutely dominated. They are dropping naughty nets right now. They've got teams dropping around them and trying to take some of their loot, but they honestly held it down really, really well. They did a great interview at the end of FNCS, and they were asked what their key to their success is right now, and they couldn't do anything but shout out their coach BloodX, who you probably know from working with Clix and Centered as well, seeing great success across multiple regions. Vidil and MrSavage really looking like MrSavage is going to be back on top. I would like to point out this is one of the first FNCSs we've watched from MrSavage where he's been uncontested in like what feels like literally chapters, not even seasons. So again, Savage very much still playing very, very well. We have Queasy and Vino. No surprise to see them top 3. A lot of people surprised to not see them in first. 241 points. They're playing very, very well out of Kenjutsu Crossing. They adapt to any meta, like whether it's heal off, whether it's a W key meta, whether it's a high ground meta, mid ground. They play everything. They put in the work, and Queasy and Vino also again did this well contested. They won 4 of those spawn fights. 2 of the ones they lost, they were just out dropped. Interestingly, the first 2 games they won, they went for 50-50 drops. They won the spawn fight. They played their games out. After losing their 2 50-50s on spawn, they changed up the strategy. They actually started landing lower in Kenjutsu Crossing building, getting looted up, and then taking a proper 2v2. Once they switched this strategy, they had a 100% success rate on spawn. So I've got a lot of confidence for Queasy and Vino now going forward, because they can out 50-50 teams, but when they don't, they can also just win the spawn fight straight up and still go on to have very consistent games. So things looking great for Queasy and Vino to kick off. They are still one of the clear favorites to win EU. We had Pixie and Della, our Swedish duo, in 4th place. They are one of the teams that I am gassing up very, very heavily right now. They had a really good season last season. They are continuing that consistency this season, and I don't think enough people are talking about just how good Pixie and Della are. We had Axe Force and Vortexes in 5th. We had Grip A and Flixie in 6th. They were doing that out of contested Mega City. We had JJ and Stompy. Love seeing Stompy come back on top in 6th. We had Wheat and Kroll in 8th. We had Skydune and Shakos in 9th. And then we had Sign D and Rezumi in 10th. Now, obviously, there's some big names I didn't talk about in either of those. On NA, we have Booga and Threats down in 16th place. Again, on EU, we then missing Thomas and Malabuka. They ended up finishing in 12th overall. Mustache and Tayson in 18th. If you guys want to go through the full FNCS leaderboards, obviously, be my guest, go through them. But we also had some big teams just missing out on FNCS altogether. We had a lot of teams not even make it past round 1. On EU, some of the big names, we had Cami and Seti miss out by, I think, a single point. We had Nas and Hen, who I've heard have now actually split up as a duo. Floki and Clement and Leshy and Swilliam, just to name a few of people. Now remember, there is 3 rounds. You have round 1, which is anyone in Champions Division can play, and you have to get top 200. So these teams didn't even make top 200 to then get a chance to make top 50. So very, very interesting week 1 on EU. NA was also no surprise there as well. We had Day and Shaw look like they were just going to miss out qualifying out of round 1. They came 201st, but someone inside the top 200 got banned for hacking, and Day and Shaw jumped up, popped off in round 2, but we were missing Bucky and Okus, Kanata and Ages. That was 2nd place from last FNCS finals, and then our double roller duo Revised and Reciprocal, who also played really, really well last FNCS finals. So we were missing a few big teams who we didn't even get to see make set lobbies, which I'm pretty sure as they adapt to the meta, they will make it 2nd and 3rd week. Like I talked about earlier with the format, just just because they missed out this week doesn't mean they're out of FNCS. It's going to be harder for them to get that top 40 to jump straight into Grands. It's more likely you're going to see these teams make Surge Week now, but I'm excited to see how the Set Lobby Finals look next week with a lot of these big players running around the leaderboard. Hope you guys liked this competitive update. If you did, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.